Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit Sun in Gemini. Well, anyway, let me get started. The first thing is when the Sun transits Gemini, well, this could be a time where people are more communicative. They could be a little bit more loquacious. Even the people that are very taciturn, the ones that have more of a quiet demeanor, that really don't talk a lot, they might even find themselves more chatty during this period than usual. There could be a lot of concentration of energy in communication. It could be more of a focal point for people. It could be a time where some people, if they hadn't talked to somebody in some time, they may very well reach out to them and communicate to them in some way, shape, or form. Now, this could be a period too where you have people are more inquisitive, where their appetite for knowledge they have a voracious appetite for knowledge, to say the least, to assimilate information. But the one thing about this, though, is that when the Sun transits Gemini, it could also make people, perhaps as far as their learning, a little bit more superficial and not have a lot of persistence, because they could be more restless and kind of drift from one subject to another. It could also be a time where people collectively might be a little bit more ambiguous in what they say, and really, because Gemini is a sign, of course, that is contradictory, and it could be a period where people may kind of say one thing, maybe do something the next. There could be a lot of changing of their mind, more ambivalence. There could also be more I would say, more of that general interest for learning and things that are scholastic. And it could be, what I notice, what's interesting about this time when the Sun is in Gemini, at least when I was in school, and I'm sure they're probably still this way right now, but when I went to school in New York, that what it was is when school ended, when grade school, or whatever, high school, grade school, middle school, it seemed like the last day was around somewhere between June 20th, June 22nd, somewhere around that time. And that's that period where you're on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. And really what it means, though, is that last month of school, essentially the Sun was in Gemini, basically, or at least most of it was, depending on the exact day that school had ended, and you'd be getting ready for summer. So you'd have at least close to that last month of school, or at least the majority of that final month of school, the Sun was in Gemini. So the thing about that is that it's a period where people often are striving harder to get better grades, or trying to assimilate more information in a rather short period, because in many cases it could be students that are just mediocre scholastically, and they're trying to go out with a flourish, so to speak, and they're trying to learn as much as they can and study much harder, because in a lot of instances, like in high school, you have your those finals and at the end of the year, and you're cramming, you're really a lot of times putting a lot more hours into studying to really get that final grade for those various subjects that will be the best it can possibly be. And really, I find that very interesting. And it's interesting when the Sun, of course, makes its transition into Cancer, that this is the time when a lot of those students are going home for their summer recess. So it's interesting how that works out. But anyway, this is also a time when you have the Sun in Gemini. It could be a very restless period where people people may find themselves more inclined to be more dexterous, be working on different things as far as using their hands. It could be their vehicles. Even for people that generally aren't really that handy, or really don't use their hands a lot, or not, really don't aren't into fixing things. It could be more of a period where people might even feel that need, that urge to want to do those things more, and they might even become more learned in doing certain things, such as even home repairs or things that requires that use of that hands and really in strong dexterity. So those are some things to look at as far as when the sun does transit Gemini. And the thing about this too is it could be more of an inclination to go on short journeys. It could be a lot more mobility, wanting to go and move around a little bit more. Even the people that are generally more stagnant, more sedentary and stationary, those people might even feel more of that need to want to go around and be moving around a little bit more than usual, and might go even if it just taking more trips in your neighborhood, going to a local store. It could be more of that need to do that during this transit than in a lot of other periods as far as astrological transits may go. Well, anyway, it's also important to look at the house that the Sun in Gemini is transiting in your natal chart, because this could impact that particular sector of your life. And anyway, let's say that the Sun in Gemini is transiting one's natal 4th house. Well, this could indicate a time where there might be a very strong that concentration of energy into communications with people in their home and people that are family members. And it could also indicate a lot more maybe wanting to be more dexterous in matters connected with the home, such as doing certain maybe repairs on the home. There might be some home renovation needed to be done, and this might be that time where you might feel really that strong need perhaps to do that and wanting to do that. Now, also, it's important to look at the aspects that are made. It's also important to look at the aspects that are made to your natal planets and points in your chart from this transit, as this could impact the transit as well. So anyway, let's say that the transiting Sun in Gemini is making a square in conjunctor opposition to your natal Mercury. Well, this might be a period where you might be expending a lot of energy on many mental tasks, and you might be inundated with them. It might be hard to keep up with all of them. And the Sun in Gemini can make it so where you might be diverted from one thing to another. So, and really hard to keep up with that, of course. And anyway, or keep up with all those things going on practically simultaneously. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the transit Sun in Gemini, and stay tuned next time where I will be talking about the transit Sun in Cancer. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.